Hi, I'm Steve Erickson from MidlifeSolopreneur.com.
And I'm Jake Erickson from FlowCampaigns.com.
And this is our daily debrief where we're talking about things that we've been working on and also some tips and things that you can use in your own solopreneur business. So today is the 29th of August and it's episode number
34.
And we have a good topic today, I think, about being detail-oriented or not so detail-oriented.
Mm-hmm.
When is it appropriate to be which? What's your thoughts on that, Jake?
Yeah, so I'd say in general, one thing that holds a lot of people up is that they're too detail-oriented and they're too perfectionist in what they're doing, and it really delays their progress. So a lot of the time, my recommendation would be just get out there and do something, even if it's not 100% as it should be.
Yeah, the 80-20 rule.
The 80-20 rule, as you get further along and you gain more experience and you gain more skills, you will naturally improve. So just getting out there and getting the experience is really good. But there are some things that I think are worth spending the extra time on to really get right the first time around.
Absolutely. One example of that is your sales page. Your sales page requires a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of detail in terms of what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, and the phrases that you're using. And you need to look at how the emotion will change of the reader during the sales, whilst they're reading the sales page and more. What else do you think, Jake, you should be spending time on?
Yeah, so I've actually been spending a lot of time helping to craft your sales pitch for the summit. So you're going to be doing a presentation about being a trusted advisor, and towards the end of that, you'll be sharing your offer for people to join the next round of the course. And again, this is another example where you want to give kind of like an emotional overview to your prospects. And you essentially take them on this emotional journey that they're following along with you, and you're probing into the areas they feel like they're struggling, they're frustrated, they're feeling overwhelmed, and you show them the solution, how you can help them.
Yeah.
So it's really important to make sure that your message is hitting the mark and people are finding it interesting, captivating. It's really resonating with them. And even something as an extra sentence here and there can either really help your cause or it could throw it off completely.
Yeah, totally. And similarly, when the sales pitch or the webinar content have been created, you also need to take time out and go through it in detail and perform it, and really perform it a couple of times before you do it the first time, just to become comfortable with it and comfortable with the flow, and you know where to go next when you are in it. Because the worst thing you can do during a webinar performance is really to start floundering and not knowing what to say next. So that's a challenge.
Yeah, so it's a fine balance, because you don't want to be floundering, but you also don't want to sound robotic, like you've memorized every single word of it. There should be an element of free flowing. If you see something that come up in the comments, you can maybe take a quick second to answer a very specific question that comes up, and to kind of like show that human interaction element. You want to be throwing in questions along the way that people are able to, at least mentally in their minds, respond yes to as well.
Yeah.
And that's something we can actually dig into in a separate episode. But really, you want to know it well, but not word for word.
Yes, absolutely. You need to free flow a little bit for sure, and not get, as you say, the robotic. I must admit, a couple of years ago, I was promoted in the position I had, and I had to go on camera to around 70 people once a month and talk for 4 minutes. The first few times I did it, I had it written out word by word what I was going to say, just to make sure I didn't sound like an idiot, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And struggling for the words. But after a while, I started gaining confidence, and then I went over to, instead of having it word by word, I would have bullet point lists and mind maps that would show me what I was going to say. And then it was a much more natural flow. And what happened over time was that I started getting compliments for the way I delivered that 4 minute, call it presentations, I guess. And so you want to get to that level where you're very comfortable with the material, very comfortable with what you're going to be saying, but have it laid out in detail enough that you never get stuck on what to say next.
Yeah.
Have that path.
And I think doing things like we're doing now, practicing the podcast, are really good for practicing the freestyling.
Absolutely.
So to give you like a little bit of an insight into our preparation for this, we pick a topic and then we basically just hit record and we start speaking. And, for the most part, this is freestyled off of each other. We might say, remember to say this one specific point that we want to get across, but otherwise, it's mostly off the cuff. And that's really good for practicing being able to talk about a topic with very little time to prepare, and you're able to make something up on the spot that's coherent and flows well. So it's good practice for when it comes time to be doing those presentations as well. So
absolutely. So let's just talk a little bit about the goal of this podcast, because I think what you said there influences that, or rather comes directly from that. The goal of this podcast isn't to get a massive viewership. If we come to the end of the year and we have 3 people, 5 people listening to the podcast, I'm totally happy. Because the goal for me of this podcast is to learn to be natural on camera, learn to be natural when I'm in conversation, free-flowing, never stopping kind of thing. So for the worst for me would it be to come to the end of this and going like, well, I don't know what to say next, and, kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so far, I mean, we are 34 episodes in, and I think it's going pretty well in terms of flexing that muscle of being able to speak. So.
I know personally I'm feeling a lot more comfortable speaking in front of the camera, without having that prep beforehand. And, it's a little unnatural speaking to the camera and then speaking to you who's sitting like directly next to me. So it's still something that we're getting used to. But yeah, I think it's just going to serve us very well in the future as we appear more and more on camera, especially, in an increasingly digital world where, frankly, the way people are going to be interacting, by all predictions, is going to be changing in the future. There's going to be fewer and fewer in-person events, more and more things online. Now that we've seen how easily it is, everyone's adapted to it. Several months now that people have been practicing speaking online. So this is much more going to become the norm than what I would expect.
Absolutely. So good practice and good preparation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. I think that's enough for now. And subscribe, rate, review, pass on, share with friends, colleagues, everybody you can think of.
Yeah.
And see you tomorrow.
Cool. See you tomorrow.